Hello, this is Jeff Vanderstelt, Executive Director of Saturate and host of the Saturate podcast. Saturate exists to serve and equip leaders to start and strengthen unified gospel city movements that lead to gospel saturation, to the end that every woman, man, and child has repeated opportunities to meet Jesus through his church on mission everywhere and every day. We believe this will require, as Jesus prayed in John 17, that the church is unified in a region and collaborating around 5 key initiatives, which we see Luke lay out when he follows the Apostle Paul's missionary journeys. And that's collaboration around prayer, not just talking to God, but listening to God and getting directions from God to know what to do. It includes disciple-making strategies where we help people make disciples who can make disciples of Jesus. Leader health, so we see sustainability and strength. Serving the city or place we're in tangible forms, so they see the kingdom of God breaking in. And then starting new churches or new kingdom expressions wherever God places us. So in this episode, we're going to spend a lot more time on the initiative of starting new expressions or new kingdom expressions of the church. And more specifically, we're going to interact with Stephen Barr. Now, Stephen is someone I've gotten to know over the years who I deeply respect and always am encouraged and inspired by. He leads Cast Member Church. Since its inception, he has 30 years of pastoral experience. He's actually recognized as a cultural futurist, and you'll get to hear more about that because he's incredibly creative, thinks about things in ways that we need to learn from. He's a kingdom catalyst. He's a creative paradox. I mean, there's so many ways you could describe who he is, and he really does inspire people to really have an imagination stirred up that can help us experience new expressions of the church. He's the founder of Kingdom Innovators, and so because of that, he invests in a lot of high capacity kingdom catalysts and faith entrepreneurs who are going to help multiply other networks similar to what he's done in ways that reveal Jesus in ways that maybe aren't as conventional as what you're used to. He's authored a few books, Kingdom Influence, which is subtitled 3 Proven Keys to Revealing Jesus in a Skeptical and Suspicious World. He's got the guide to life beyond imagination in that to show you how can you really think in a way that's creative and begin to experience new expressions of Jesus wherever you're at. That's available on Amazon. Both of those books are. He's also contributed to another project, which is titled For Those Who Have Ears. You have to maybe tell us more about that, but that's a modern book, a book of modern parables. So Stephen, there's a lot. I mean, I feel like it's a mouthful just describing all you are and all you've done. And then I could add to it, you're married to, is it Lucia?
Yes.
Or Lucia? Is it Lucia?
Lucia. Mm-hmm.
I got it right. Yeah. And 2 adult children.
Mm-hmm.
You split your time. Now, who gets to do this? You split your time between Orlando, Florida and Paris, France. My goodness.
That would be.
What kind of life do you get to live?
Well, someone has to do it. So,
oh my goodness, suffering. That's because there's 2 big organizations with ears in both of those places, right?
Exactly.
1 organization and 2 expressions.
Exactly. You got it.
Yeah. Man, I am so glad. In fact, I was reading through that. I'm like, you're more than I thought you were. I mean, I've gotten to spend time with you, but the things you put your fingerprints on, the things you've gotten to impact, the leaders that you inspire, man, you must be sitting back going like, Lord, in one lifetime, I've gotten to do a lot. So
that is exactly how it's just absolute gratitude. I mean, I wake up every morning saying to Jesus and to myself, I can't believe you let me do this. I cannot believe that I have this opportunity. So I never take it for granted. Never.
Yeah. Well, you're a blessing, man. I'm so glad you're joining us. I'm glad people are going to there's a lot of people who don't know who you are, and I'm glad they're going to get introduced to you in this episode. So why don't you just start with explaining what is Cast Member Church? That's where you give a majority of your time is to that. Tell us more about that.
Yes, absolutely. Cast Member Church is a network of kingdom expressions and microchurches that are embedded inside the Walt Disney Company. So imagine it as a microchurch in its most basic form, a microchurch network located at every Disney park location around the world. The word cast member is simply because every employee of the Walt Disney Company is referred to as a cast member because every person plays an integral part of the show. And so when we originally started, we thought, oh, we're going to call it some really cool Disney name. And I think it was The Adventure at Walt Disney World is how it started out. But I had to keep explaining to people, no, it's not a new roller coaster. No, it's not a new attraction. So one day we were just kind of sitting around. I'm thinking, what could we call this? What would? And I think the Lord was just like, good grief, just call it Cast Member Church.
Yeah,
Have never had to explain it after that to anyone. So,
man. So how did this come about? Like, what inspired you to do this?
1991, I was a Disney cast member in the entertainment division. I was a keyboard player. And for 1 year, I performed out in front of Cinderella Castle every day, 5 shows a day. And I remember looking down during one of the shows, because when you do that many shows, your brain can go on autopilot. As long as you're smiling and hitting the keys, you're good. And my brain started to just kind of drift. And I was looking at the train station from the castle. You can see the train station down at the other end of the street. And I thought to myself, there should be a church. Why isn't there a church here for people like me? And I was thinking Christians at the time. I was thinking, why? Because our schedules were crazy. You couldn't go to church on a Sunday. This was in 91. So, we're going back quite a few years. Yeah. And that was it. That was it, Jeff. It was just a passing thought, came in my brain and left my brain. Fast forward many, many years later, I ended up in the ministry, serving as a worship pastor for 25 years, and then became a church planter. And I would say a normal church planter, the boot camp and the fundraising and all of that. And we planted a church in San Antonio, Texas, that was going to reach the artsy community of San Antonio. And we got it up and started, great launch, followed all of the principles that you're supposed to follow when you do a church plant. And by all intents and purposes, it was a successful church plant launch. The problem was I was bored out of my mind. I literally, it was like there was just nothing that was giving me energy. And I thought there was something wrong with me. And I was sitting in a Panera Bread with a group of leaders and kind of just sharing my heart. And one of them said, why aren't you doing this at Disney? And Jeff, it was like a flashback. All of a sudden, I remembered that moment on Main Street, USA in Walt Disney World. And I believe that it was the Lord saying, this is something I planted in 1991. It's time to actually start doing something with it. So Cast Member Church came to be about 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow, a lot's happened in a short period of time.
It's been wonderful. Oh
my goodness. Mm-hmm. Wow. So when you think about, probably some of your own story informs us too, but when you think about the Disney cast members and, them being drawn to a community like Cast Member Church, why do you think there's a draw there? What's maybe the attraction to something like that?
That's a great question. I think the original intent of Cast Member Church was to provide an oasis for Christians.
Yeah,
I think it was going to be kind of a safe place where Christians could gather, because we're in the heart of the entertainment industry here in Disney. Right. It's and so in everything that goes with that. So it started out that way, but something shifted in us. It was definitely Jesus, but how he did it, I really still can't explain it. But he wanted something innovative, something that actually would grow. I think about the passage where God is doing a new thing, and to not look back, but to focus on where he's working, and these ideas of streams in the desert. And it occurred to me, he wants to do something where there's no life. He wants to do something where it's dead. And so our church became more focused on people who didn't know Jesus, and a safe place to come and just explore, experiment, ask what they thought were dumb questions, or ask questions that they thought they knew the answers to, but a place where they were treated without judgment, where they were treated in a way that was, we're just glad you're here. We're just glad. And so it really, why people I think they found it to be a safe place for community. One, because obviously Jesus is there. I mean, wherever
right.
Jesus is, people are going to be curious. But I think it was also, we didn't put up any barriers between Jesus and them. If they came and they just wanted to be critical, or they were confused or conflicted, that's okay. If they were wrestling with issues in their life, this is a great place to come and wrestle with it. So, it was really about the environment. And the secret, we can get into this later, but really the secret sauce to that was our dining room tables. Rather than it being a Sunday gathering, it was, we like to say that, our sanctuaries are our dining room tables where people come and meet Jesus. So I think just a combination of all of those things has created at least a spirit of curiosity to want to draw near and see for themselves.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I want you to tease that out a little bit more in terms of describe a little bit more the table idea, and even like what are the spiritual needs that you're connecting to in the cast members? What is it they're longing for? How are you bringing the good news to those longings around the tables? All that. I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh my gosh, I think the table is a safe place. There's something about eating together, and we see this throughout Scripture. So it's not like it's nothing new, but there's something about eating together that creates an intimacy. And as you're eating together, walls start to drop. Maybe not a lot, but they drop at least more than sitting in rows looking at the backs of people's heads. And so people tend to start opening up. The dining room table of my wife and I, we've had in 13 years, probably over almost 2,000 cast members sit at our dining room table. And I'll never get rid of that table because it's tear stained. It's had fist pounding. It's had a lot of colorful language spoken. But Jesus has always been there every single time. And so for us, when people began to open up, now these are all young people. I will add, our church, I'm the oldest person in our church, but the average age is probably 26, 27.
Okay.
And so these are people that are coming to our tables, and they're coming through relationship, not just, we don't market, we don't promote. It's just coming through, hey, do you want to come to dinner with me? Or would you like to go to this person's house? And they come. And I think the greatest needs that they're dealing with right now, apart from a mental health crisis that is just really bad, is just isolation. You've heard it said that we live in a very connected world, but we're more isolated than ever. I think that's a big part of it. And Disney when they come to work for Disney, it's a way of escaping reality. And so they're running away from something, even if it's themselves. And at the dinner table, we like to ask just really interesting questions, not necessarily trying to dive right into, we don't ever have an agenda, but we do want to move people closer to Jesus. So whatever those conversations lead to, but people tend to start revealing their true colors, their darker issues that they're battling. And it's a great place where beautiful things happen. So that's something that we can reproduce. Every cast member has a dining room table, even if it's in an apartment and seats 3 people, that's something that can be reproduced.
It's, I hope that anybody that's listening in ask themselves, where is the table that we're creating and setting? Because I think, when you look at the biblical requirements of a leader, they're supposed to be hospitable. And we know Middle Eastern hospitality was very different than what we think of it today. In fact, I heard a couple speak at a church just a week ago that lived in the Middle East for about 10 years. And they said, in the Western context, we think of hospitality as entertainment, but in their context, they think of it as a divine messenger that God has actually sent.
That's incredible.
Like he intentionally sent them to your house And it's an act of worship to invite them in and
they get it.
Let them be.
Yeah.
Let them be who they are. Let them show up just as they are,
That's it.
And that's what you're doing. I love that you're doing that so well. I mean, in fact, I think we've overcomplicated it in a lot of ways. And
yes,
you really have, I think, simplified it in a lot of ways. And yet there are challenges, right? So like,
oh yeah.
What are some of the ways you think about some of these people who sit at your table? They've been hurt, many of them. Maybe they're skeptical. Maybe they're confused. Like, how do you begin to address some of that stuff that's probably not easy for us to sometimes deal with, but I know you create a safe place for it to happen.
I will tell you that the biggest thing was a shift that I had to make. And that was when we first started this, I came at it with answers. I wanted to solve everyone's problem. I wanted to fix it. And I've learned now that it's about asking questions. Keep asking questions. And eventually a person will say, you know what, why? I'm curious, why are you so interested in this part of my life? Why are you, what is it about me that you want to know? And also it's such a beautiful thing when someone starts to ask questions and it's like, wow, they really care about me. And it's no longer, I think with every question we ask, we lower the wall a little bit. And that allows them to relax. So I think the one of the secrets is don't invite people to your table to solve their problems, or even dare I say to present the gospel. And I believe me, I love sharing the gospel, but there's a time and place, there's a moment, and the Lord will reveal it. But enjoy the journey of relationship. We call it the sacred work of relationship. Every relationship is sacred. And so just like you were talking about in the Middle East, every dinner, every table is sacred. If we treat it that way, we can become very much aware of what Jesus is doing. I often like, if it's possible, I always like having an extra chair at our table. And that doesn't always happen, but when it does, in my mind, I'm imagining Jesus sitting there. And he's joining us and he's part of this. And I want to make sure that whatever I'm saying is honoring him, or maybe I sense him going, whoop, whoop, easy, Steve, easy, or now's the moment, Stephen, now's the moment. But it's, I think it's just enjoying the relationship and learning as much as you can about someone. And then the more they reveal, the more you can see, oh, this is where Jesus can touch. This is where Jesus can do something very special.
That reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Francis Schaeffer. I think it was, he said, if I have an hour with a person, I would spend the first 55 minutes asking really good questions so that maybe in the last 5 minutes, I might have some idea of what might sound like good news to them.
That's it.
And
we live in a culture. We live in a culture where we want to fix things. We want the quick fix. And Jeff, to be honest with you, sometimes all we're called to do is plant the seeds.
Yeah.
All we're called, maybe I don't get the chance to close it. Maybe I don't get a chance to be the one who invites them to Christ. That's okay. I need to be okay with that, knowing that if they leave our home or leave any one of our cast members' homes, do they want to come back?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like Jesus said, some of us are going to plant seeds, some of us are going to water, some of us are going to get to harvest. Like, he's the Lord of the harvest. Let him determine who's going to do that, who's not, instead of us. I think what you just said there, the fix it piece, I think we want to feel in control. And when we can't fix something, we feel out of control. And I think it's absolutely confidence in the Lordship of Jesus Christ that he's in control. So we can play our part and we can be patient in his process.
The stress comes when we're trying to do his part. And we like to say, let him do the heavy lifting. Yes. He's like, give it to me. You give that to me. You just do your part and rejoice in that. And it's changed my life, Jeff. It's changed when I realize I'm partnering with Jesus. I'm not doing this for Jesus. I actually get to partner with him. And some days I'm going, oh, I could have done more. But that still small voice is like, or are you just wanting to control things?
So you're in a kind of a interesting place because you're in somebody else's home in some ways. Like you're doing this work in where Disney has locations.
Yes.
And you're creating tables in a variety of places, and you're doing a relationship with people that work there. I mean, that's an interesting thing to navigate. And we all have different contexts we're trying to navigate, whether it's someone's going to work and they're trying to be a faithful witness to Jesus, in my case at Microsoft or Google or Amazon. There's a lot of the companies that are here. But everybody has some kind of thing to navigate like that, where there are these unique realities where we're in someone else's world or someone else's house, in a sense, in a company, So how do you navigate that? You're part of an organization that is a secular organization. I mean, at least you're in it. You're spending time there, trying to honor them. And I know you've done a great job of that. And yet also you're very committed to Jesus in the midst of that. Right. How do you handle that tension?
God-given wisdom. I mean, it's wisdom, but if there was something strategic about it, it would be never underestimate cultural exegesis. I mean, never understand your context. Our church is so designed for Disney. Our vocabulary, we use 3 V's. It's every culture has, Disney has a culture that shares a common vision, common values, and a common vocabulary. And then we add common vulnerabilities. And you have to take the time to understand how that works. Disney is a secular company. They're responsible to their stockholders. Their job is to make money. It's not to produce family entertainment. It's to make money, and they'll do whatever they need to do to make that money. And that's fine. That's their way of operating. So we simply use the conduits that, every person that's a part of Cast Member Church works for the Walt Disney Company. I don't. I'm the only person in Cast Member Church who does not have a job with Disney. And the only reason I have credibility is because I was once a cast member. So we share something in common called mouse blood. Once you've worked for Disney, you always think different. But so we navigate it in a way where we respect the rules and we play by the rules, but we also operate. For example, we don't do Bible studies in the break rooms on Disney time or anything like that. That would be the end of us if we started doing things like that. We don't have people out sharing Christ, in the parks doing that, but it's done through relationship. It's any one of our cast members, wherever they work, they see that as their mission field. So if they're working if they're working on Space Mountain, and then they see their fellow cast members as the people that God has placed in their lives to be able to be light to them and to reveal Jesus to them. And so, and another person, it might be an attraction in Paris or a restaurant in Tokyo, but they see wherever they are, wherever they're working, as that is my mission field. And so they're always looking at, how can I contextualize what we're all going through together, and how can I reveal Jesus in that context? So what we're doing as part of our discipling process is giving people the tools to figure those things out, what to look for, how to recognize when Jesus is doing something in that context, and how to communicate that.
So many principles you just said there. Like, seriously, you're stepping into another context. You're honoring that culture, and its values and rules. You're attentive to how Jesus is at work around you. You do your work in such a way that you're serving, caring, loving the fellow workers and people you're serving. And then, as Jesus opens opportunities, you look to step into those. I mean, all transferable principles for all of life.
Exactly. And that next step is to invite people over to your home for dinner. Or meet for coffee, or depending on the context. But and if you could, as you so eloquently put it, if you look at each one of those things, it's just a natural progression There's
Yes.
nothing, it's not rocket science. It's just
Yeah.
learning to live with you being very aware of what Jesus could be doing around you. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that if we lean into that and embrace that, my goodness, we're going to see things with spiritual eyes that we've never seen before.
Yes. Yes. Now you're helping people innovate, think creatively, and the language you use, and this is language I use as well. You use the language of helping them start or bring kingdom expressions. Talk more about that.
Yes, that's one of my favorite phrases is kingdom expression. It's so funny. We started out as a normal church way back, even when we came to Disney, and then kind of realized that you can't create a gathering that's going to impress people. Because
not at Disney.
No, it's like trying to impress the man behind the curtain. It's just like it's not going to work. And we realized that the one thing that we could offer that Disney couldn't was authentic relationship. And I know that's an overused term, but the fact of the matter is it doesn't lessen the importance of it. And that is real relationship where a person can feel safe, where a person can feel valued, where a person can feel accepted, even in the midst of their brokenness. To feel, to be able to provide that kind of a relationship is so important. And so we realized that going big was not going to accomplish the mission, especially if we wanted to multiply. And so the idea of bringing people in rather than saying, let's start with a few and send them out and let them start. And so the idea, we didn't set out to do microchurches, Jeff. It was just Jesus did it. I mean, it was when I started hearing about microchurches and kingdom expressions and all, I'm like going, oh, that's what we're doing. That was so cool. So a kingdom expression, we kind of look at it as two sides of the same coin. And that is when you follow Jesus, you are a kingdom expression. Jesus wants to express something of himself through you, whether it's, maybe you have a particular passion or a particular gift or a strength or something, but you are on this planet to uniquely express his kingdom in some way. Then you bring a few of those kingdom expressions together. Now you have more of a corporate kingdom expression. Now, some of those are, they may work in the same area because of people seeing that as their mission field, or they may just, because they share a common passion. One person may work in Tomorrowland. One person may work in World Showcase in Epcot. One person may work at, there's this idea of a single kingdom expression that we want to equip and the idea of a corporate kingdom expression that we want to encourage, because no one can be a kingdom expression on their own.
Right.
And so we just look at, but here's the beautiful thing. Not all kingdom expressions end up becoming churches. Some of them just end up becoming, someone started something years ago, realizing that a lot of cast members couldn't afford the work shoes that Disney required them to have. The Disney provided the costume, but not the work shoes. And so you had people actually getting in trouble at work for not wearing the right shoes. And so someone in our church decided, hey, let's pay for those shoes. To anyone who cannot afford a pair of shoes, let's be the ones that pay for those shoes. I think it was called Project Mickey Shoes or something like that, something corny like that. But the idea was, and that was a kingdom expression. That was a way of a person revealing Jesus. And we went into the shoe business for a while, it seemed like. But instead of saying you're a church planter, let's start with you being a kingdom expression. Let's just start with that. And then let Jesus decide how he wants to make it, how it will produce fruit. So all kingdom expressions in Cast Member Church, all microchurches are kingdom expressions, but not all kingdom expressions are microchurches. I hope that makes sense.
Got it. Yeah. When do you see it becoming a microchurch?
2 or 3. 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah. It's at that point, it's like there's something happening here. And, but we don't, we're not trying to protect DNA. We're not trying to guard the brand or anything like that. So,
Mhm.
so we just kind of watch it for a little bit and coach it and see what it becomes. But when 2 or 3 people are starting to meet on a regular basis, and you're starting to see an upward looking, they're growing closer to Jesus together. They're taking care of each other. They're meeting regularly around their table. Something's happening there, and we want to make
Yeah.
sure that they know that they have our full support and encouragement as a church.
And what does that look like? Do you guys bring them together for some kind of common training periodically? Is it more individual coaching?
It's more
What's the
into
way that you support them?
I wish we could do more of the bring everybody together, but that's, to be honest with you, that's like herding cats.
Yeah, I
Simply
imagine.
because, and it's not their fault, it's just the Disney culture. It is, everyone is in a different place, different location, different schedule. And so we'll do some periodic things. We're just now starting to create resources that they can get online. They can log in and they can get the training, but that doesn't replace the one-on-one or the live.
Yeah.
Let's talk back and forth. And so, so we're kind of building the parachute on the way down. I mean, it really is. I wish there was some kind of a chart that I could show you. Oh, here's how it works, but it's actually a lot messier than that.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
But we've never. Someone once asked me, it's like, well, with all that's happening, how do you guard from heresy? How do you avoid that stuff? And I said, I'll let you know when it happens.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when it happens. We've never had a major issue that couldn't easily be, coached right back into a biblical model. So, but yeah, so I think there's a lot of one-on-one, but I have about 8 people that I invest in. That's it. Because,
Wow.
well, Jesus only had 12.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
and he was
Yeah.
the best, So,
Yeah.
but remember that every cast member has a full-time job. And so we want whatever we reproduce, it has to be reproducible having a full-time job. Now, recognizing that your job is your mission field is very helpful.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
but at the same time, a micro will probably, a kingdom expression could grow to be 20 some people, but I would say an average, you're looking at 8, something like that. That's what I'm trying to model. Because beyond that, you're not able to, you can't disciple a bunch of people.
I love it. It's funny. I often was asked the same question with all the mission community work we did over the years. So they're like the whole heresy one,
I know.
And I'd always be like, well, it's really interesting. It seems like most of the heresy that's out there came from really highly educated people, not from the uneducated people,
true.
Not from the normal everyday
That's
people.
True.
Not a lot of heresy started there.
Well, and I mean, Paul dealt with it all the time, and I mean, we're talking.
Yes.
This is at the beginning, so I think what was really revealing. Someone once asked me. This has been years ago, but someone was kind of challenging me on that. If you don't have everybody together at one time, how? And this was his words. He said, "How do you control it?"
Yeah,
and I said, "That's
the word.
That's the problem.
That's the word.
It's not mine to control."
That's
so.
Right.
So we're very comfortable with. I can do 8. I can do 8, and if the Lord, changes that, okay. But that's healthy for me.
Yeah. Oh man. So what do you anticipate's coming? I mean, I'm sure you're a bit of a futurist, so you're probably already anticipating. What do I see? Any thoughts about what the future might look like?
I can give you the perspective where I'm at, simply because I operate in a little bit different world than maybe most people. 95% of my time are spent with people who don't know Jesus. So I can tell you how people who don't know Jesus are viewing the church. And so we're looking at, in this political season, the church is not really helping itself at all by getting involved in some of those things, especially when it's when the language is very unchristlike, when the treatment of others that that have different viewpoints.
Yeah.
I can say that people who don't know Jesus are much more likely to draw near to him around a dinner table than an auditorium.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything wrong with auditoriums. I'm not criticizing that. I can just tell you based on my experience that young people that have no church background are much more likely to open up to Jesus around a dinner table. And I think the church is going to, of course, microchurches and the more smaller expressions of the kingdom are working through those things now. I think the larger churches are going to have to start thinking about how do we not even think multiple campus, how do we think neighborhood, how do we think house, how do we equip people for that, and shift the focus off the big gathering and make the small living room or the dining room table the place where it happens. And I think so it'll get turned upside down. It won't happen. I'm thinking 10 to 15 years.
Yep.
I'm thinking I came out of the big model. I mean, a lot of us did. That's just not something that can be self-sustaining. That's not something that you can't keep creating things to attract people and then keep doing more of it to keep them. And so I think this is a watershed moment for the church in the West. I also see churches when you start thinking networks, because when you think small, we have four little values that we incorporate to our kingdom expressions, and that is keep it simple, keep it small, keep it slow, keep it specific. And notice one of the S's is not sexy, because none of those words are appealing to a commercial culture, to a consumer culture. But the idea is if we do that, you can multiply that. And you can multiply it wherever people go. So if someone moves away, they now have the capacity to be a kingdom expression in Prague or in Munich or in Des Moines or Phoenix. I think churches, when they start realizing their sending potential, I think it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be that's what I'm hoping for. Do I see it? Yeah, I just hope that I see it, that it doesn't happen out of necessity and desperation, but out of vision and a desire.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Yeah, early on when we started Summit, we said, let's do whatever we do in such a way that if people were to leave in 3 to 5 years, they would be able to do what we train them in anywhere, anytime.
That's it.
That was it. Yeah. So when we create things that almost nobody can do, or you have to have a ton of money to do it, or the right staff to do it, it's just not reproducible, and it's not going to feel like the movement of Jesus. So I love that, man. I think you're dead on. Okay. So last words, anything you want to say to listeners? Some of them are church leaders, some are church planners, some are everyday people. Like you've learned a lot over these years. Give us some parting wisdom or exhortation.
Oh my goodness. I'm just this is a quick prayer here, because I want to make sure I'm speaking what the Lord wants. I want to encourage anyone out there that the vision is not, it's not my exhortation. It's actually a friend of ours, Brian Sanders, who said this. The goal is not to be big. We just want to matter wherever we are. And I think as church leaders, wherever you are, if you're part of something that's a mega, or if you're part of something that's micro, the importance is not the vision of big. The importance is fruitfulness. And fruitfulness is a result of faithfulness. It comes down to that. Be faithful to Jesus, and he will produce the fruit. But I would say, just on a personal note, open your dinner table. Open your dinner table. And here's a little challenge I'm actually presenting to a church this coming week that I'm speaking at. And that is, Thanksgiving's coming. Thanksgiving's coming. Who is someone that you could invite to your table that doesn't necessarily make you feel comfortable? Who is someone that could, what chair could you set for someone and invite them to? Because sometimes it's just that first step, that first opening your home, that first conversation. I truly believe that when we open our dining room tables to people who don't know Jesus, they're going to encounter him. So I would say that's my application and challenge for today. Open your dining room table and see what Jesus can do.
Thank you so much. So if people want to learn more about what you're doing, get connected to anything you're doing, where would they go?
Castmemberchurch.com is the website. And that's probably the easiest thing. We try to keep everything there so they don't have to go chasing things around.
Good.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Stephen, I'm really grateful for you. And you have had a significant impact where you're at. And you live out everything you just said. So thanks for your faithfulness and your example.
Jeff, you are so kind. And it's, you know what, it's been a privilege being on your podcast, but I have to say it's a real pleasure being your friend. God bless you,
Stephen. Thank you. You too. Wow. So thankful for Stephen and the ministry of Cast Church and the work they're doing globally. It's just a remarkable expression of the kingdom of God at work through normal, everyday people. And so, hope that encouraged you. We want to keep exposing people to more and more examples of how to live this out in your context. And so please join us as a partner if you haven't yet. There's a variety of ways to do that. One, just start to pray for us. I send a text out regularly about anything we're about to do so you can join us in prayer, and then we can give you reports of what God did. And that's easy to do. Just send us an email, hello@saturatetheworld.com, and we'll get you on the text stream. I don't send out a lot. It's just a couple times a month, but that's one way you can join us in prayer. Second, we do what we do in large degree because we receive support financially from people who believe in the work we're doing and want to get more and more people served, equipped, and developed. And we're doing it all over the world. We're helping churches in Tokyo and Eastern Europe and the UK, United States, Canada, Mexico, Central America. I mean, God has given us just a grace to serve a lot of people, but we can't do it without your support. So if you'd be willing to support us financially, you can go to saturatetheworld.com, click on the Give tab, and become one of our monthly supporters if you want to, or a one-time gift, as we're trying to make up a gap as we come to the year end here in the next few months. And then lastly, maybe you're a part of a church that wants to see your church become more and more effective in making disciples. We created a disciple-making lab. It's a 10-month journey, cohort-style learning, where you journey with a group of other churches that are all trying to really focus on and redesign anything they need to in their church to make it more effective in disciple making. We help you build an entire disciple making pathway from spiritually dead to spiritual grandparent. And so we could help you with that. Reach out to us. Again, go to saturatetheworld.com, click on our training area, and you'll see a tab there for disciple making lab that will give you more information and show you how to take next steps. Again, thanks for joining us. We're so thankful we get to hear from people like Stephen and many other great practitioners. We all have a lot to learn from each other. And so thanks for joining us on the journey.